All right. Greetings. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. We're going live. We are live officially. The topic of this video is going to be debunking the myths surrounding redemption education and sovereignty, plus Q&A. But first, as usual, before we get started, I'd like to give a disclaimer. This video is going to be for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance or situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person to please do his or her homework and research into the matter being discussed. This information is not to be construed as legal advice. Any event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged that you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource is not liable or responsible for any misuse of this information. These are simply my thoughts and opinions on the topic being discussed. With that being said, all rights are reserved. As usual, everyone, please govern yourselves accordingly. Now, let's jump into the topic. Greetings, everyone. Welcome. I'm back. Appreciate you all once again that continue to follow me. Big shout out to you all who have subscribed to my second channel. Those who've donated to me, big shout out to Currency 365, who's been a big supporter of mine, and all the others out there. The love is appreciated. The comments that I received, I do read them. Thank you. Now, without further ado, I wanted to discuss in this video, I wanted to debunk some of the myths and rumors surrounding redemption education, also aka sovereignty. Now, I don't use the word myself, sovereign citizen. Generally, if you hear someone say that or reference that, 9 times out of 10, in many cases, they're an agent, especially if they're referencing it in a negative manner and they don't know anything about it, because you have this thing out here where people form these conclusions based off urban legends, off hearsay. And you know, I'm here to debunk that. That's why I'm doing this video. I want to show you that there's a book that I brought with me tonight. I've shown it before. This version is out of print. There's an updated version, which I have. This book I'm going to use as notes. I'm not going to maybe really cover the chapters specifically, but I'm going to use it as reference to talk about, based on the time we have, different, subjects within the movement, by the way. So I'm going to explain, attempt to explain that a lot of things we engage in are evolved around contracts. These are several copies I brought with me of my voter registration card. I was actually contemplating on titling this video, but it would have to go deep into some other things that I think I would save that for like maybe a more advanced class. By the way, I've always mentioned, still looking into it. If I was to ever start a Patreon or subscription service, I may be able to go more in depth into details like that. I see a couple people in the chat. I just want to acknowledge you all real quick. Rosemary Wynn Hiller says hi. Pray with prayer symbol. Good evening. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining, Rosemary. Sandra DeVoe Coleman says good evening. G. I'm concerned about Social Security, who will be coming a SPC. Will becoming a SPC. That stands for Secure Party Creditor. That's an acronym for. Will that affect me? I understand. By the way, and this is where this gets advanced. I took a class many years ago. Actually, it was a a seminar back in 2014, more specifically, that someone in the movement by the name of Jonah Bay did. I believe I actually recorded one of his first public seminars. I think he had been here prior and had done some private ones, maybe at the Southfield Library. I'm not really sure from what I heard, but he did an official seminar that I actually recorded. I brought my computer at the time with me in Farmington Hills, Michigan. By the way, I knew the person, one of the organizers for that event, and that question was brought up by an older gentleman that used to study in a group that I used to study with many years ago. He came after he came to the classes, because at one time this information, just to give you all an inside look, was very private, by invitation only. So the reason I'm doing this video is I wanted to provide clarification and debunk some of the myths and rumors that you've heard out there from I call gatekeepers, people that don't have people's best interests at heart, or people that don't want the general public to find out about this information because they have ulterior motives at hand. Now, yes, you do have people out there that I've heard have been scammed, stuff like that. You have con artists in anything, different genres of life. You always have to watch out for it. And this is why, to cover myself, I give a disclaimer. I always tell people, and I mentioned this in previous videos, before you give anybody any money, look up their credibility, try to find out what type of knowledge they have, what's their education, some more about their background. Don't just give someone money willy-nilly. Check out their credibility. And I've gone over some of these types of things in the past about my background, who I am, my principles. And I always say use good judgment, evaluate people, making a good assessment beforehand, and do your research. When I started learning about this information many years ago, back in 2004, and moving forward, I went up to my college at the time, which I was attending. I had just graduated from, actually, with my associate's degree from a business school. I couldn't go back at the time for my bachelor's. The financial aid office had stated, based on something I did at the time I was unaware of prior to learning about this information, I did a loan consolidation, and it jammed me up. I actually took credits towards my bachelor's, but I had to unroll and start working. So I did have a plan beforehand, where I received my associate's degree in business administration, self-directed management from Detroit College of Business, which got bought out and became Davenport University. Davenport University was like a school based out of Grand Rapids, Michigan, I believe, and they bought up some of the other mom and pop colleges. That even Detroit College of Business had some satellite campuses. I think one in Flint. They merged and they all fell up under Davenport. And I also took I went to school also in Columbus, Ohio, some years ago. Was the first college I attended was DeVry Institute of Technology, which the name has changed to DeVry University, which is a business technological school similar to ITT Technical Institute. I started at DeVry many years ago, and I also took a business class there. By the way, I took some of the same classes there. Some credits I had were able to transfer over. Other classes, I won't go into all the details, just to give a little bit about my background. So I am college educated, by the way, and I do pay attention to things even with that level of information. But I've learned, when I started learning about this information, within, some people call sovereignty or whatever, I learned more information than I did out of college in general. But those classes and the sovereignty taught me how to apply redemption education, how to apply those classes to real life, to the real world. Because sometimes when you're learning this information, you're a young person, nobody's really explaining this stuff to you out there based on whatever your career field is, whatever your path, the direction that you want to head down. Some people don't take that test that certain parents have their children take to see what their talents are, what their skill sets are, by the way. So not to deviate too far off track, but just to give you all a little background, a lot of sovereignty deals with contract law, by the way. It deals with the legal system. And I've heard sayings before from some people that try to discredit people involved that teach or share this type of information. I don't claim to be any guru. I may consider myself an intel provider. By the way, I share intel. I have done a couple consultations before. Big shout out to you all who've donated for that, paid for the service privately, by the way, because there's certain things, because YouTube is very public. It's a public platform. So that's why I said if I start a membership, if I get enough subscribers, YouTube now has a membership program where I can have exclusive type of podcasts or meetings where I can make the chat section where it would be members only, by the way. So that, those are some of the types of things. YouTube is upgraded, I think, similar in a way to Patreon. What I do like that, and then I can cover things more in depth, and that will keep down on the trolls or people that don't have good intentions, because I've warned you all, there are those out there that just fish for information. They'll jump from platform to platform, and then you do have agents out there who I would say don't have good intentions. Now, I'm going to prove For example, you have, I think it's not worth mentioning. Some of you all know who I've talked about. I don't really mention this person that much, but they try to discredit this type of information. And I talk about the valid side, the validity. That's not spookism or hearsay or rumors or urban legends. I talk about the real stuff, things that I do know. I have contacts, other people that study this type of information, people that I've networked with, that I have met, that do know that this is truth to this information. But when people don't understand things, by the way, which fear comes from, is derived from the unknown, by the way, and fear is false emotions appearing real. That's an acronym for, then you get a lot of these urban legends. But to answer the question earlier, to not forget, you had a good question in the chat, Sandra. No, unfortunately, that would have to be for a more advanced class. I would have to go into more in-depth details. That should not hurt. There is a way when you understand the trust relationship, because what gatekeepers have done, for example, because a lot of state officials, they abuse their power of attorney, or that they can use something, and you can look this up. They have something in the court system called plausible deniability. I remember some years ago, I was going through an illegal wage garnishment. It was for a student loan. I don't have any children, so don't think it was for child support. But just to share some of my personal business, many years ago, I worked for a previous security company, and they actually had in the employee handbook that they would not garnish someone's wages without a court order, that they would notify you. And they did the exact opposite. This happened around September of 2006, around this time of the year, back in 06. By the way, I believe it started September 06. I noticed I started seeing like this extra $50-something come out of my check. And, I was heated about it. So I actually went up to the where the office was located. And the company that I worked for, they had their own lawyer, by the way. And I debated. And the lawyer said to me, "Oh, don't talk that UCC stuff. By the way, he said, don't give me that UCC, secured party creditor," something like that. And I was like, what is this guy putting on a show? And I said, wage garnishments are illegal in the state of Michigan because this particular wasn't a legitimate court order. It was what's called an administrative wage garnishment, which is like acquiescence they use spookism, fear. By the way, if you contract, and I found out on my behalf without my awareness, my operations manager for the company that I worked for at the time, I won't say his name, I still remember his name, by the way, and even the new company that purchased them, that bought them out, by the way, but I found out that he went and talked to the student loan person that worked they since had combined it, by the way. I won't go into all the details, but Michigan Guarantee Agency or whatever, he had spoke with, and that had made a deal behind my back. Now, I had talked to a friend of mine who was like my unofficial legal advisor, by the way, but I say unofficially, and he helped represent somebody else in a separate incident down south. One of his relatives that got caught up in a situation actually helped that individual get off. Now, this person that I spoke to at the time, who was a good friend of mine, stated to me that they can't just do this without your permission, because he said if this is the case, anybody could just accuse you of you owing them without, they have to have proof in the form of a court order or written judgment, by the way. And did you know they have their own courts, I believe, similar to like the IRS, the Student Loan U.S. Department of Education, by the way, but this was like a subgroup running up under them, like a sub corporation acting on behalf, and they use these different tactics. So I had learned at the time, this actually caused me to research a lot of this information that I was studying and go more in depth and actually take it serious, because that same year, earlier in the year, my older cousin who was down south, I had shared this information with him, and he had networked with the group that I studied with many years ago. I went to these private classes. I studied with one of the most advanced groups in the city of Detroit. I won't say they were the most advanced group, but they were one of the most advanced groups, because I could go into the story how different cell groups broke apart and different people went their own separate types of ways. Because one thing that some gatekeepers and villains out there try to do is gaslight individuals and lump everyone in one category and call everybody sovereign citizens, which that is an umbrella term that's used to discredit people from studying this type of information because they don't want the left hand to know what the right hand is doing. So it's important that, you know, if people are going to label people, they do it in a correct manner and not gaslight or make up fraudulent, false information just because they don't like someone or whatnot, based off false accusations. By the way, that's illegal, and you can sue someone criminally for libel. Even sovereigns, people that study this type of information, you can still come after an individual. You can sue them in their private capacity for defamation of character, by the way. And I was considering doing that if an individual out there had said some things, some lies about me. I was looking at that. You know, I would go through the proper process for that, you know. But however, that's neither here nor there for the time being. But just giving you all some background, my cousin gave me this CD that he had purchased from the group that I was not able to afford at the time. And it has some advanced information that I just recently emailed to a few people. One guy down south had asked me about it, and I don't do this for everybody. I have people in my inner circle that I know that are exempted from consultation or things of that sort because they provide excellent quality information, and they've helped me out throughout the years. Where you heard the saying, sword sharpens sword, by the way, because we take this serious. We're not weekend warriors where some people just want a quick fix. They just want to jump in this and think things are going to happen overnight. And let me say on a side note, I'm at a certain level in this. There are people who are more advanced than myself, by the way, and there's different processes and different procedures, by the way. This is something that people don't really clarify, by the way. There's different processes and different procedures, so this is important to understand. So one has to make their own judgment and assessment, and this is why I do give a disclaimer. You have to make your own evaluation. I've told people privately, I cannot make the decision for you what you decide to do. You know, as far as being an adult, you live on your own. If you're competent to handle your own commercial affairs, by the way, that's part of competency, being competent, by the way. And some of you all know is if you hire a lawyer, you're declaring an attorney. In some instances you do, because there's certain things that people just don't want to do all the homework. The research is too much, and I can understand that. But you know, when you are contracting a certain way, it's best to maybe do limited power of attorney, because if you give full power of attorney, you're declaring yourself incompetent. By the way, when they say they're going to represent you, there's also, pay attention to the prefixes and suffixes of words. They're going to represent you to the court. Remember, lawyers are part of the Bar Association. Attorneys, they get their license, their P license is issued through the same license that issues other types of contracts, such as marriage license, concealed carry license, for example. They issue P licenses for attorneys once they pass the bar and everything. They go through the process for that. And there's a reason why these things have been set up to keep the general public uninformed and dumbed down so they can control the general public, general population better, and keep people as sheeps, by the way, on the plantation, as some will call. So you see how I'm kind of providing more clarification. By the way, these are like gray areas, questions that people don't generally ask because it's like a taboo subject, I understand, or the elephant in the room. And I'm here to clarify that, debunking the myths once again behind redemption education and sovereignty. It's also important to study the history to understand how this came about, how many years ago, before the court systems, they used to operate under common law before statutory side took over. You study the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938. You want to look up the Erie Railroad versus Tompkins case of 1938, where they implemented the color of law, or these courts also known as de facto. You can look up, that's an actual term. De facto courts, look up color of law, colorable law, and look up the history behind that. It's not a coincidence the way this was being set up. By the way, when you go into the history, you learn about the Federal Reserve Act, by the way, that was signed, put into place 1913. But prior, there was a secret meeting held on Jekyll Island. I believe that was in Georgia, by the way. There was historian that put out a book and even an audio some years ago by the name of G. Edward Griffin or Edward G. Griffin, something like that. You can look him up. By the way, kudos to his information. It is accurate, contrary to popular belief, contrary to what gatekeepers out there have tried to say to try to discredit his name. No, his information is accurate, by the way. You just have to study the history. And this was prior to the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917, by the way, which was further implemented, enforced after the bankruptcy of 1933 through the Emergency War Powers Act. The Emergency War Powers Act of 1933 is when the Trading with the Enemy Act of 1917 went into effect, when they declared every U.S. citizen under color of law, 14th Amendment, corporate citizen is the enemy of the state, by the way, and they implemented the statutory corporate side and created the artificial person, the legal fiction, in the court system known as the in lingus, by the way. The capitis diminutiu maxima, that's in all caps, Greek, going back to Roman, Greco times, meaning you lost all rights. That's why it names on tombstones. It's not a coincidence. When you're considered the decedent estate, you're considered deceased even when you're alive, because you're doing business as that legal person, the legal fiction, the in lingus, by the way. You're doing business as capitis diminutiu maxima, because capitis diminutiu minima meant you sign a certain way, you retain all rights, by the way. Just kind of referencing, and there's supporting documentation to back that up. I know it's some pretty heavy stuff. I'm going to jump in the chat to acknowledge some more of you guys' comments. Rachel Gaines says, hello, greetings to you, Rachel. Thank you for joining. Sandra says, I heard of him. Sandra says, how do you feel about Patrick Devine? Great. Patrick Devine was a pioneer, I would say, in the movement. As there was individuals that taught or shared this type of information, did seminars years ago, and they didn't have maybe all the correct information and had difficulty maybe articulating it. When Patrick Devine came along to teach this type of information, by the way, and there is a channel on YouTube, I don't remember the name of it, by the way, that uploads a lot of his old audios, by the way. He's good to start off with, by the way. But remember, there's different processes, different procedures, and this is where when I got involved learning this type of information, I did a lot of reading, a lot of research. I listened to audios. I was even given a video. I also was given a disc that had information. The individual that shared it with me told me it would take like 6 to 8 months to go through. Had a plethora of information. Now I consider information on there like old technology, by the way. So hopefully I answered your question. He's a good pioneer. Someone good to start off with listening to help you connect the pieces together. He does a very good job explaining forms and things of that sort, dealing with particular agency and other information dealing with contracts. Remember how we operate, how you sign your name, how you will use other entities, by the way, to operate. Because remember, your SSN, which is tied into your in lingus, that's the legal term, they're tapping into that account, by the way. DP Loading 3 says, what do you think about Iraq telling everyone they're happy with their currency being a Forex? Okay. Could it be the same as Kuwait's currency? It's a good question, DP Uploading. To answer your question really quick, because this video was also Q&A. I believe, in my opinion, I just heard recently that the Secretary of Treasury was over in that part of the world in Iraq, or that region of the world. I don't remember exactly if they said Saudi Arabia. So, excuse me. I think, in my humble opinion, something is going on when I would generally read intel that's related to that type of information dealing with the revaluation. I would hear information about different maybe leaders, if they were visiting over here, or some of our leaders going over there. That may be indication that things are gaining momentum and could be coming down the road soon. But as I previously discussed, I put that on the back burner. I remember I've discussed in my previous video, I stay away from dates and rates, by the way, but I think we are getting closer. One thing is, as you know, day by day goes by, month by month, we're getting closer. by the way. So I think it's a good indication. However, the specific details, it's also an evolving situation from what I shared previously. I may have some information down the road. I just received recently, by the way, I can do a video about the GCR, updated video for those who want to know about the reset. But to get back on topic, let me see some of the other comments in here. Sandra says, okay, thumbs up, I'll get the book. Okay. Sandra says, I will contact you personally. Okay. Now, understand, too, just to give you a heads up, Sandra, and this is for other people who want to contact me, the information is in the description box below. I have new requirements, and I've discussed this previously for those who want to contact me, by the way, because I have a busy schedule. I'm still on the plantation because I'm at a certain level in this, by the way. I would love to share this information absolutely free, by the way, if things had came through for me years ago, which they didn't. By the way, I've came into some new information as far as higher level information that this book even has like a chapter that talks about, by the way. And so the requirements, to give you all a heads up, anybody that wants to contact me, the requirements, I require that a fee to speak to me privately for consultation. There's two ways you can make the payment, either through my Cash App link, which is attached to my channel, or if you email me, which should be in the description box after this video is uploaded, or my previous videos that I've already done. My email address, Serious Inquiries Only, will have information, and I can send you the PayPal link, you know, for when I'm free or whatever. But that's one of the ways, the two ways for the time being that I have as a courtesy for those who are serious. It will let me know who's serious. And then I can go more in depth in information versus what I share on here. By the way, I can share things over the phone because it's in a more private setting. Remember, YouTube is very public, so I can articulate things and I can break things down a lot more in depth. So that's the service that you'll be getting if you're serious about the donation, or, you know, paying. That's my required fee, because I've just had so many people in the past, and I have a network of people, and I have people I have to follow up with myself who are more advanced and maybe stronger in certain areas than myself, by the way. So just you know, putting that out there. Rastafari Root of Reality says, peace, brothers. Okay, Rastafari Root of Reality says, email me. Okay, Rastafari, in case you're still watching, I asked before, I don't have your email. I'm not sure who you are. So you can email me and let me know the description of the name you were under in the title, so I will know that it's you. By the way, if you send me an email, and then we can go from there. Okay, you said we should exchange info, almost never appear in public, and don't access most social media. Okay, I understand. You know, I definitely understand. There's people out there who want to remain private. I do respect anonymity, but and those who are not trolling, that are genuine. I understand. There's people that because there's one contact that I have, for example, I would never mention his name. Actually, several. By the way, I never mention their names. By the way, the only reason, if I ever have mentioned names, it's only to show validity behind something I may have been part of, or something I was, you know, trying to provide validity behind. But there's some people that I know that I don't mention. I've never mentioned their name. I will speak in code, you know, so no one would know who they are. And this is male and female, by the way, as far as my contacts that I have. Sandra says, yes, thank you. I've been listening to Patrick's videos. Okay. Rastafari says, these current changes are bringing certain concepts and principles into light. Okay. Rastafari Root of Reality says, email is the most private. Okay. Sandra says, thanks again. I will email you when you put up the link. I'm very serious about doing this. Okay. I can help point you in the right direction. By the way, I also, like I say, there's people who are more advanced than myself. I think I'm at a certain level. I'm definitely not a beginner. So I do know what one needs to do. First of all, the first step is one needs to give you guys a secret. One needs to cancel their voter registration. By the way, this is three different copies of my voter registration from the Department of Elections from some years ago in the city of Detroit. By the way, the city, because it has on here the city clerk of the city of Detroit. By the way, so once again, this is not hearsay. I'm prove it. I speak about it. My friend says he likes how I've taken things into action. Just because, you know, I've shared things in the past, some people have asked me, well, what type of paperwork have I filed? What have I done? I do have old filings I can show, but information has evolved, has changed over the years, by the way. Just something to keep in mind, by the way. But many years ago, to give a little background, an event when I first woke up to this information, there was a sister. She was connected to the Nuwaubian Nation of Moors. And I want to say on a side note, I'm not a member of the Moor Science Temple. It's not the same thing. It's separate from this particular group. This was a different group, by the way. They were the Nuwaubians. They were also activists working with, I found out some years later, her brother was a Hebrew Israelite by some of the contacts that I had that were part of the conscious community, Keebaline or Black conscious community, Marcus Garvey community. By the way, they told me that this other person that would speak at these same classes that I was informed about many years ago by a source that I had told me they were on Saturdays, and it was on the east side of Detroit. I lived on the west side at the time, so I had to catch the bus to get to these classes. And when I first went to the first meeting, I didn't have enough money to get back. By the way, that's how hungry I was for the information. I only had $1 something and change just to get to there. But I said I had faith, and I believed in the Creator. That at that time, that's one of the few times in my life where I've actually leaped out on a step of faith, and things worked out where God, the Creator, saw to it for me to make it back home. By the way, and it was a long way. I was prepared. I think, you know, I never have maybe really walked that far before. Maybe one other time. That year was one of the times I had walked the longest. But I was prepared. I was that hungry for the information. By the way, so make a long story short, at these classes, the sister said the first thing that you all needed to do, there was all mostly Black people, melanated people would come from all different walks of life. Women I would see came with their babies in their carriages. By the way, there were people from corporate America. I saw wear their corporate America badges. They would come to this event. They would get the information. By the way, she sold a book at the time called Cracking the Code, which is no longer in print, by the way. If you can still find the book on eBay or Amazon, the last time I checked, it was going for like over $1,000, from like $900 to over $1,000. I think the same for this book. This is the original version, and some of the newer ones were starting to sell out on Amazon, by the way. And I had did a video previously for free as a courtesy to give people empowering information to show there's validity behind this type of information. There's reputable, credible information, despite the rumors, the urban legends out here. You will hear from different agents and gatekeepers out there, and underlinks and minions, because they want to try to discredit this information. Also, the system, because the system is making money off of keeping people ignorant, stupid. And then when you are registered, by the way, they're making money that everybody who's a registered voter should be getting a cut of that money. They're using behind the scenes to tap into your you-know-what, by the way. And I'll just leave it at that, by the way. These are things that I read in documents many years ago from different websites that have went down, that are no longer online or not available anymore, by the way. Just something to keep in mind. So Rastafari says, bless you, brother. Appreciate it. Rastafari Root of Reality says, forms update often, processes are amended, principles remain. Okay, definitely understand. Said, this is all spiritual, whether it is not, it's known and or / understood. Yes, I agree. I do have my frustrations with that, my pet peeves, I will say, by the way. But yes, you are correct. Mary Saunders says, hello, Mr. Dorsey. Greetings to you, Mary. Thank you for joining. Jada Lynn says, hello, sir. Greetings to you, Jada. Appreciate you for joining, by the way. Appreciate you. So, going over this information, didn't really want to be before you all that long, but just wanted to provide some insight to debunk some of the myths. This video was also Q&A session for those of you all who have questions. If I can, I'll do my level best to answer them, by the way. But this video is also Q&A. Keep that in mind. This is the best time to reach me when I'm not busy for questions, comments, or concerns, by the way. So this book I want to go over has a lot of different good information in here. Some tidbits. Goes over, talks about Form 56. That's pretty well known, pretty popular. This talks about, has a cover letter in here. Some things I think are too advanced or more sensitive. This book, by the way, is for more advanced people, not generally for newbies, by the way. I would say this is for more serious, more advanced teachings, by the way. Looking for information to cover. Let me see if looks like I got another comment in here. Okay, Sandra says, thank you so much for the information. Rastafari Root of Reality says, I missed the beginning. What's the name of the book? The name of this book is called Operating Sovereign, Live Free, Stay Free. This version is no longer in print. You can find this book at makefreedom.com. By the way, you could do a Yahoo or Google search. I purchased mine on Amazon. The updated version, I had the guy who's connected to this particular group have reached out to me a few years ago, I want to say, and he sent me the updated version for free because he didn't know. I guess he had found out that I had did a video as a courtesy. You know, like he didn't ask me to do this. When I promote people, sometimes they don't ask me, by the way, but understand when I promote or share certain information, that means that I have faith or there's credibility in what an individual is saying. If it's a documentary, if it's a radio talk show host or YouTube channel, when I promote someone or share their information, that means I have faith. I may have researched them already. And I think I'm giving them kudos, credit, showing them mad love. And he sent me the updated version of this book for free. This version is no longer in print. This is a website I think you could purchase it from. Another website called www.sovereignconnection.com. By the way, www.sovereignconnection.com. They had partnered with another group, I think out of Oregon. By the way, I don't know if they still have the same partnership, by the way. But this book, I think, is more advanced. I won't read some of the description, but I'll let you all out there do your own research and homework. But see, the difference is if you would pay for consultation from me, which would be privately, you cash at me. The link is on my channel. Just read the description box. Or if you want to do it through PayPal, I can email you the link. Then the difference, I can explain privately some of the information I won't share in this video. I can explain from my experience, by the way, what my eyes have saw throughout the years, by the way, because with age comes wisdom. And that's one of the things I have. I'm now 41 years old. When I learned about this information was back in 2004. The specific year is when I've been knowing about this information since 2003, when I first found out about the classes. However, I didn't attend my first class many years ago from this group until back in 2004. So I told the story earlier with a sister. She was connected to the Nubian Nation of Moors, and she told us at the time the first thing that you all needed to do, she went by the name Paula, and she said you all need to cancel your voter registration. And she further, a friend of mine reminded me that she stated at the time some years ago, she used to be a Detroit police officer, by the way, and she stated that they taught her how to deal with sovereign citizens, or so-called sovereign citizens, and said they stopped teaching this type of information. I guess there was some connection. She was warning us about something. And she also told us, she said, don't be an organ donor either. She said, there's certain, and these are forms of contracts that people get engaged with, by the way, that can make one liable without their awareness. And certain entities, corporations, can tap in behind the scenes. They can act as intermediaries behind the scenes and access your account. Like even when you hire a lawyer and things, you're giving them access to, they can cash in on your social security number. The court system can also look up behind the scenes the information that's tied in with the private equity side of your the funds that's connected to your birth certificate. But see, you have to ask the question, do you expect these gatekeepers to be honest and fair? Because you know a lot of politicians, before they become politicians, what do they have to become? Or what do they become? Many of them are, I'll let you guys think about it for a second, lawyers, attorneys, by the way, which means they had to go through the Bar Association, learn the history, British Accredited Regency. And just like on a chessboard, there was a document online, I don't know if it's still available, was called Lawyer's Secret Oath they take. You want to look up, see if that document is still online. I remember some years ago, you could type it in on Yahoo or Google, it will pull up, or whatever search engine you liked. Remember years ago, you had Lysos, you had Bing, other search engines for it's with different web browsers, whatever you choose, and it would come up like this document called Lawyer's Secret Oath, and it mentioned in there that lawyers are esquires, they're knights for the Queen of England. They're acting through Britain, the court systems, because remember the British infiltrated our government. When you study history of the Boston Tea Party, some of the history of the presidents, how the Rothschilds, how they brought in the banking system, the Federal Reserve Bank, how they infiltrated our government, because we only needed a treasury, our U.S. treasury. We didn't need a third party outside source to print our currency, to act as a private institution and cause economic and slavery on people, the Federal Reserve banking system. By the way, behind the scenes, we already had a treasury, and this was the hustle that the Rothschild sons were taught by their parent father of the movement, the Godfather, Amschel Bauer, which original name, that was Bauer, he changed, is German for Red Shield. Rothschild, the original surname was Bauer, Amschel Bauer. Remember he said, he made a statement, a quote some years ago, "You give me control of the banking system, I care not who makes the laws." Ha 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 ha. And you see why. But they have been dishonest, they have been very corrupt, and they're one of a few entities that has not been audited, by the way. You have to ask the question. Remember Ron Paul, a few other people had pushed for the Federal Reserve banking system, but they bought off a lot of politicians. That's why a lot of politicians have been corrupt, have been corrupted, by the way, from doing an audit, from auditing the Fed. By the way, they act as a quasi government entity, which means they have partial government responsibility. They're also a private corporation, which we did not need them as a third party. That's what lawyers step in and act as a third party if you choose to get a lawyer. But see, that's why we should have been learning this legal education, this sovereignty, by the way, when we were in elementary school. I would say, I wouldn't even say middle school, high school. This is giving certain people an advantage to cheat other people, to have advanced knowledge and information, to control people in the general public, to dumb down the general population, to give them an advantage. It's no coincidence why these gatekeepers are paid very good money, by the way, and are taught to speak a certain way, because they use Latin within the court judicial system. Ooh, I'm touching on some things. Look up legalese. Look up the definition of legalese, by the way. Why has that been created? And look up the definition. It's been used to replace plain talk, plain English. Why is that, Dorsey? Why has that been put into place? In all these years, we the people have not held them accountable, by the way. But see, they've done things in a covert manner, but there is ways to exit the matrix, by the way. But it's criminal in some of the deceptive practices they have used to enslave every man, woman, and child, and not just here in America, but worldwide, to fund world wars throughout history, by the way. That's tied in with that family that I mentioned. And you want to check out, to get the proper education, the movie Money Masters, Monopoly Men, to back up what I'm saying. By the way, look those documentaries up. Also, Ring of Power, Empire of the City. It's a documentary. You want to find a software that can download these YouTube documentaries so you can have them stored, an archive, in case they try to remove them. Because some of these, they have tried to change the search engine up so you can't find these documentaries anymore. Also, look up the documentary called Change is on the Horizon. By the way, someone posted the link in a more recent video that I've done, by the way, in the comment section. It's called Change is on the Horizon. You want to look that documentary up, and it will help provide insight and help connect the dots. By the way, it explains very good information. They also use something called fractional reserve banking, by the way. Debbie Sterling says, also see the video Straw Man on YouTube. Okay, thank you for that information, Debbie. Yes, there's information about the straw man, by the way, because I mentioned the legal terms that's used. I failed to reference like where capitis diminutio maxima derived from, under going back to Roman ecclesiastical times, Roman law many years ago. Because remember in grammar, in English class, grammar, they had rules of grammar, by the way. And legally, you have a term called legalese, by the way, where they have rules for the court system. They have procedures. So they don't recognize the term straw man, and they can use what's called plausible deniability. Look up the definition of plausible deniability, by the way. That's what the lawyer, when I told that story about the wage garnishment earlier in this video, by the way, about my previous employer, that's what I was referencing. That lawyer did at the time. He was able to act like he didn't know what I was talking about. He was using plausible deniability, by the way. Yes, plausible deniability. That's what he was using. In case some of you all, that's critical to understand how they're getting away, but they can still be held criminally liable, by the way, if you know the proper procedures to file a complaint for misconduct. Like here locally in Detroit, you have, I believe, the Attorney Grievance Board, Attorney Grievance Commission. So you have to look up in your state, what is it called? It might have a different name. You also have the Judicial Tenure Commission for judges, by the way, to file a complaint. Then you have, I think for federal court judges, you have to go through Cincinnati or through the Court of Appeals. I think the way it's different jurisdictions. But remember, they have dreams one day of becoming maybe a Supreme Court justice or moving to a higher position as a federal judge. And when they look at their past and see, oh, they had like a point. They get, you know how you get written up at your job, like if you work for Amazon or somewhere, you get points, or you work in the plant because you showed up late or did a no call, no show, or you got so many points. Well, this is similar. You're not afraid. You can file a complaint against the lawyer that is not following proper procedures or acting in misconduct, judicial misconduct, as well as lawyers. And there's also ways to privately, this is the more advanced information. By the way, I know individuals out there, they were teaching more advanced than myself. One individual, I won't say the name, had a webinar, by the way, I believe, to show you some of this information. Actually, another individual that I'm aware of too, by the way, they had information to show you how to do proper writs. So you understand summons and complaints, your briefs, your motions, and things of that sort. By the way, your affidavits and things to get fine remedy. By the way, to get justice. Because remember, justice, they use etymology and they have a play on words. Justice means just us. By the way, remember, they're members of the bar, so they can play both sides. If you're operating, you coming into the court a certain way, they can construe the case how they see fit. By the way, and the strategies how they claim jurisdiction over. You have status, jurisdiction, adjudication. You know, but it's a certain reason why if you come in, you have to know how to come in, and you come in a certain way, the proper capacity. You know, they have to establish status and jurisdiction over you. But there's things that if you know how to properly operate, there's people that have been advanced that I met throughout the years that I've heard stories from. One guy told the story many years ago. He went up against a judge. He was, I guess, he was really advanced with his terminology, very fluent. And she started getting nervous. He mentioned this at a meeting, private meeting I attended some years ago. She started throwing out her Eastern Star distress signal. He said, doing like that. It's the Eastern Star signal, by the way, because that's why in the courts it's very Masonic. While a lot of lawyers, judges, they join the secret societies. They join fraternities, sororities. By the way, see, they're looking out for other club members. It's one of the reasons, not all. So understand, I'm not talking about people that have integrity, but those who operate in misconduct or corrupt practices, even in government. Because remember, a lot of politicians become lawyers and things of this sort before they go into those types of roles, by the way, and they abuse their power. Not saying all, but a significant portion, by the way, because of the ability, the power that they have. And you have something called unjust enrichment, by the way, things to look up unjust enrichment. What that is, when certain individuals, sometimes they're abusing their power. And that's unfortunately where a lot of people that study this redemption education, this is not for the weak-minded or for those who are weak. You have to be mentally strong, have the tenacity and the fight, because these people don't play fair. I've heard stories. One lady that contacted me out of Maricopa County, Arizona, was very advanced and told me some of the things that has happened to her. So just understand, but there are ways they can be sued in their private capacity. Remember, they're also doing business as if they're the honorable so-and-so or judge or lawyer. Remember, they're doing business as under that P number. They're issued through the Bar Association. That's like their license. Just like notaries have their notarial acknowledgement, their certification. That's like their license. Like if a notary isn't, even though they say I can still practice, but they're supposed to have be current. By the way, with that P number and things of that sort, they're supposed to be active. They've discovered some judges, their oath of office wasn't current, by the way. And there's ways they could be removed from the bench. I even found out someone was telling me how they were trying to hide this information down at the county, downtown in the city of Detroit. They were moving around where their oath of offices were, because this is they have an oath that they swore under they're supposed to abide by the Constitution, by the way, and they're acting criminally. There's ways they can get charged and held liable under misconduct, criminally prosecuted and sued and liens placed on them, by the way. But it has to be done in the proper capacity. There are individuals out there who are advanced. I've come across, I'll call them heavy hitters, some heavyweights out there. I remember some years ago, one of them passed away this year in the city of Detroit, I found out. By the way, a brother by the name of Washita Soldier, I knew him of. I still remember him by his government name years ago. I looked up his obituary. Rest in peace to the brother. By the way, he was also a traveling man. By the way, I just want to say I'm aware of that on the side note. His government name Roosevelt Harrison. Rest in peace to Soldier. He was a pioneer. He was a heavy hitter with some of the other ones in the movement. Mo Riley and Amarion. I got a chance to. I didn't really know Mo Riley, by the way. I had a run-in with him some years ago. I ran into at Panera Bread. And the other heavy hitter I ran into at Panera, and his student, Amarion, he was Amari, he was a heavy hitter. Told me he almost he went up against a judge and almost got rid of the Michigan State Police or something like that. And the judge, he said, did something corrupt. He was going toe-to-toe with him. Said the judge put in failure to state a claim where relief can be granted. The way he was telling me the story. Because see, he was more advanced than myself. And you have to learn Latin. These brothers are very well studied. Some of them have maybe a photographic memory. They've studied that Black's Law Legal Dictionary very well, which I'm going to have to get more fluent, more acclimated with. And he commended when I told him about some of the things that I had done with my job and some of the other successes and how I assisted one of my former girlfriends some years ago, and commended me. But yeah, I've come across some heavy hitters. So they come across the wrong person, police officers too. They can get leaned up. they can get removed, by the way, and criminally charged. Complaints and stuff can be filed when it's done properly. That's key. You know, Rastafari Root of Reality says, wise as serpents, harmless as a dove. Yep, I heard that. Rastafari Root of Reality says right standing. Rastafari says compass mentis. Okay. Yes, and you know what? I'm gonna have to look that up. I don't know what that means. If you don't mind sharing, or probably being competent mentally. That's probably what that. Because Latin is like a parent language to English, so I'm interpreting it as meaning competent mentally, or being mentally competent. Compass mentis, and non mens re. Okay. Yeah. See, they use Latin. See, I have to brush up, and see that's how. They've used Latin legalese. When you look up the definition, they've used it to replace plain English, plain talk. They also have something called civilitor mortis, where they have you, as you're doing business as the legal person, legal fiction, alive, you're civically dead. I remember I learned that from Jonah Bay some years ago. I looked up the definition, civilitor mortis. That means that deals with civil death. So they consider you civilly dead if you don't know how to operate, by the way, and coming in there, in their courts, by the way. Yep. So I think I've spoken enough for you guys. So the title of this video is, I want to help provide insight. Maybe I can do a part 2. Thumbs up. Let me know if you guys like the video. Comment. Let me know what you guys think about this video. If it's good, you guys would like to see other videos like this as well. By the way, I appreciate you all for joining me. So I'm going to wrap things up. By the way, I'm your host, John Dorsey III, doing business as the legal person, legal fiction, the in lingus, by the way, John III. So with that said, I'm going to get ready to wrap things up. I appreciate you guys once again. You can follow me on YouTube at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Instagram at Dorsey's Resource _ 2019, something like that. By the way, should be in the description box. You can also follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I appreciate each and every one of you all for taking the time out of your busy schedule, out of your day to join me. Don't forget to comment, rate, share, subscribe. Also hit the notification bell, so whenever I put out new videos, YouTube will and should notify you whenever I put out new updates. So I'll leave you with these cliches. The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. Stay woke. Inshallah. Until next time, shalom, peace, deuces. Wakanda forever.